In this episode of Adobe Spotlight, I want to highlight an Adobe tool that very few people know about, and that is Adobe Aero. Aero enables us to create augmented reality experiences for our students to use or for a variety of other educational or entertainment uses. Let's take a brief closer look at Adobe Aero, what you can do with it, and a sneak peek at how to create your own augmented reality experiences by using Adobe Aero. So what is Adobe Aero? As you can see here, it's augmented reality, and by that we mean you can take something that's in the real world, put a device in front of it, between you and the object, and you will see something added to the reality. This is augmented reality. Let me show you an example of one that I created. So this is my kitchen table, and we have a character there kind of pointing and waving. And then we have a bunch of different objects and things. There's animation involved. When I zoom in and get closer, you can hear things like a cat meowing. You can hear the dog barking. There's some moving of the characters, and that's triggered by me getting closer the object or the character. So I'll stop it there, but I think that gives you hopefully a sense of what we're talking about with Adobe Aero and augmented reality. If you were able to download Adobe Aero, either the iOS app or the Aero player that's for Android, you should be able to scan this QR code and then try out that augmented reality experience that I created. Here I am in Adobe Creative Cloud, and let's take a look at some of the basics of using Aero and how to get started with a simple project. I'm going to click Open, and Aero opens up. So this is the Aero homepage. And down here you can see there's a Create New button. I'll click that and I'll name my project. In my case, I'm going to name it Nature Vocabulary, and I click OK. And now I find myself in the Adobe Aero 3D environment. You can see there's an X-axis here, there's a Y-axis going up, and there's also a Z-axis. This line here represents the Z-axis. Now, to help you get a better feel for this 3D environment, I'm going to click on this surface here, but instead of left clicking, I'm going to right click, and I'll hold the right click, and you can see my mouse pointer changed into the orbit tool is what it's called. And so here I can click and drag to shift the view, and that helps me get a sense for the 3D space that I'm working in. If you want to be able to see more of the 3D environment, you can adjust the panel here at the right. You can make it smaller to give you more space to look at here. So now I can begin to add things to this 3D space, and whatever I add here will appear in the real world on a desk, a table, any other flat surface that the user wants it to appear on, just like we saw in the example I showed earlier. Rob, I may need to move things around, show the example at the beginning, the one from my video that I already did. So what kind of things can I add to this 3D environment in Aero? Well, I'm given a whole library of starter assets that come with Aero. And I'll jump down here to Origami Forest Pack, and I'll open it up and select some nature items. So I'll click on this tree. As soon as I click on it, it's added to my project. I'll orbit around by right-clicking. Now that I have that tree in my project, I can click on the tree or click off the tree, but if I select the tree, I get this gizmo that helps me to manipulate the tree, move it, make it bigger, tilt it, all sorts of different things. So I'm going to use the center dot to move that tree where I want it to be in my project. And I think I'll also stretch it out a little bit using this green square. I also want to add a mountain. I'll scoot that back a ways, make it quite a bit bigger. And to help me with that, I can use the scroll wheel on the mouse to zoom in and zoom out as needed. So I think that looks pretty good. I also want to add a cloud. I'll put that back here. And finally, I'll add a flower. Again, I'm going to want to change the size of some of these different things. And with my cloud, I really would like that to be floating in the sky. One way to do that is to select the cloud in this case, and then look over here on the right in the properties area. There are some position settings. There's the X position, but the Y position, if I click on that and drag up, it lifts the cloud up into the sky. So I think that's a lot better. And of course I could add more models here, but you can also go to File, Import, and you can import models from many other sources. One of my favorite sources is called the 3D Warehouse. You You can get all sorts of free models that you can download and then import into Adobe Aero, but you can also import two-dimensional photos, images, graphics, and more. In addition to adding models to the project, you can also add interaction. So I'm going to go here to the lower left corner and click on Behavior Builder. And next I'm supposed to select an object that I want to add some interactivity to, or behaviors to. For example, this tree. I'll just click on the tree, and then I can go here to the lower left corner and click to add a trigger. Triggers are how you can add some interactivity to your augmented reality experience. So as you can see, there are 3 types of triggers. A start trigger, basically when the project opens at the start, something can happen. That's kind of nice, but I really like tap and enter proximity. Let's try tap. And at this point, I'm basically programming an interaction with this tree. So if the viewer taps the tree, what do I want to have happen? I'll click on Action. I'd like the tree to spin, and I'd also like to play audio. And if I want to, I can add even more. So I could also open a URL in a web browser. I could play audio. Maybe I've pre-recorded myself saying the word tree in Spanish or in another language, and I could make it so that the tree spins and it plays my voice. I can have the tree move. I can have an animation play. There's just all sorts of different options that I can program into this tree. Let's preview it. So when I click Preview, Adobe Aero starts, and this is a simulation of what it will be like for the end user when they look at this project through their phone. Again, imagine these models being looked at through augmented reality as if they were sitting on a table or the floor or some other flat surface, and then the viewer taps on the tree with their finger and the tree spins. And imagine a voice saying un árbol, or a tree. So that's kind of a fun aspect of Adobe Aero, that not only are you putting in 3D models, but you can add some interaction to them. I'll go back to Edit just to point out that there is another kind of interaction that you can try. We could set up a trigger that happens when the viewer enters proximity to an object. So if the viewer gets close enough to the tree or to the flower, I could have something happen. I could have it hide or disappear. I could have it bounce, and this is what it would look like if it bounces. When you're done working on your Aero project, you don't need to worry about saving. It's automatically saving along the way. But what you can do is go here to the upper right and click on Share. Make sure you've got a name for your project, and then you can create a link. And once that link is generated, anyone that goes to this link, if they have the Adobe Aero app, they'll be able to experience this 3D world that I've created and this augmented reality experience, complete with the interactions, the behaviors that I've set up. There's also a QR code generated so that people can scan that with their phones, and it will open up in the Adobe Aero app on their phones, and they'll be able to experience this augmented reality world that I've built. Thanks for watching this episode of Adobe Spotlight. I hope you found Adobe Aero to be intriguing and that you'll think about installing it through your Adobe Creative Cloud account that is available to all Utah kindergarten through 12th grade educators.